What is going on, guys and girls, whoever else, all the followers of this channel? Chris Pearson here again, as always, with you guys for the return of the web series that we have started over the last few weeks, the Jaguars Quarterback Quest. I know we've done a lot with tracking the madness over the last couple weeks, and now the tournament's underway. And again, I want to say before I get back into this video, again, thank you guys so much for all the views, all the comments, everything on that. That was so fun for me again to do this year. And again, it's always a fun time, as I said in the last video. I plan on keep on doing it because it's a fun time of year when we do that in the off season for the fantasy football, and it's something on the side to do as well. So again, thank you guys so much for that. And again, I've been thinking on things, and again, after we complete this series, as the draft gets closer, in coming up in May, I've had a couple thoughts. I might just go back to maybe what I did before, with one video a week, with like the weekly word or weekly the big thoughts on the big stories out there, sharing my thoughts on those, once every single week, just to get a video up. So that way, it's kind of less, less on me. That way, we head toward. That'll do that for a couple months till football season comes back around, and then it's time for the FFSR again. So again, just thank you guys for your support, and I know you guys have been really, really patient for me to get this this video up. I'm wearing the Carolina blue today. I have to, for one, I have to because I was so excited yesterday. Duke getting beat, Carolina winning. If you guys follow my Twitter, I was going buku on it all day. It was a fun day. The first 2 days of the tournament were so much fun. And now we're really getting down to it today. 8 games today, 8 tomorrow. We'll be down to the Sweet 16 by the weekend. So fun stuff there as well. But again, I want to appreciate your guys' patience for me to get this video up. I know I said I wanted to get it up on Thursday, but again, with the tournament and with my schedule being a little squirrely and things, getting a little crazy around here and being real busy at work, things have been kind of tight. But I was able to get research done on these next 4 quarterbacks that we're going to talk about today in this video. We are going to look at today, and again, I also want to confirm something I mentioned on the channel. We're only going to go, I think, probably to the top 30 quarterbacks, I would say, maybe 32, but because I don't think the Jags are going to go that deep down the draft board, or to look at quarterbacks. So I think we're only just going to go the top 32. So that means that we'll have 4 more videos left after this one to do, and hopefully by that time then we'll be actually really, really close to the draft, which is now, by the way, if you didn't know, it is in May now. They moved it this year, so after having it in April for so long. So so in this video we are going to look at 2 redshirt seniors and 2 true seniors, and one even from another one of those under-the-radar schools. We're looking, actually, or 2 if you really look at it. We're going to look at Logan Thomas of Virginia Tech, Tom Savage of Pittsburgh, Jeff Mathews from Cornell, and Keith Wenning from Ball State. All 4 of these guys are, according to CBS, projected to be maybe even 7th round or free agent pickups. After that, the next 4 videos are a pretty big drop-off. These guys aren't expected to be drafted, but someone might make a steal for these guys if they really like them and have them high on their draft boards. So let's get right into it with these guys. And I share with you, as we do on these videos, I share with you the pros and the cons of these guys, what system style they work for, and that kind of thing. Also, a quick primer. I want to share my thoughts real quick on speaking of quarterbacks, on the situation with the Jets. Yesterday, it was revealed that Mark Sanchez had finally been released. That really was a non-shock, and then kind of the other non-shock followed. This has been rumored for weeks that Michael Vick is now a Jet, and I find that really intriguing. Obviously, letting Sanchez go, I think, was the big thing, because it was clear, at least to me, and hopefully to Jet Nation, if there is such a thing, There probably is. It was clear, it should have been clear as the writing on the wall, that Sanchez clearly was not working in New York. He clearly was, he had been beat out by Geno Smith. He clearly was not doing so well. He's now famously known, forever will be known for the butt fumble. We know that. So it defines his career now. So that was just it. So they needed to go in a new direction. Now this also showed that the Jets were not ready to give up on Geno Smith yet. I mean, they just drafted the guy last year. Did he struggle first year? Absolutely. But you know what? He's a rookie. He was a rookie that year. So that they're not going to give up on Geno. But that's the thing that really hurt the Jets. And I read it in the article on ESPN.com. They needed a veteran presence. And when Geno was the starter, they really didn't have that. So they really needed a real veteran presence, not Sanchez, but someone else, to really kind of take the load if Geno was struggling. So they have that now in Vic. I think it's going to be a fun quarterback competition to watch. Vic clearly showed that he can still handle his duties. He can still play the game well. Even I think he's 34 now, so even at that age, he's still going strong. And even though he lost the starting job to Philly, I think, again, I said on here, Foles was better tailored for that offense all along in Philly. So I hope that he succeeds in New York, and I think the change really didn't shock me yesterday. So, all right, that was just my 2 cents on that. Had to get that out there. All right, so let's delve into these guys in this fourth video for the Jaguars Quarterback Quest. Let's start with Logan Thomas of Virginia Tech. This guy is the tallest of the 4 of this group and the biggest. He is 6'6", 250. And let me tell you, from what I watched the Duke game from him from this past year. And, of course, Duke had a very good year this year. And I tell you what, I am so impressed by Logan Thomas's skill set in that regard, that he uses his body to his advantage. So again, some of the pros for him has a very quick release. He quickly gets it out of the pocket. Usually it's dink and dunk. Usually it's screen passes. He's outstanding at the screen pass. Usually every time it was 5-10 yards upfield. He was very accurate in that regard. He doesn't move too much in the pocket. When he's in the pocket, he usually stays put. Now, he's not afraid to tuck and run. When his first option, usually, I noticed a lot when I watched this game, when the first option wasn't there for him, or when the play, wasn't, or when the play is designed for him, he is not afraid to just tuck and run and go. And that's where that strength comes in. That's where that ability really works well for him. And when he's not flushed out of the pocket or he's under pressure, he is very accurate with the football. So that's a big thing to look at as well. So when it's a passing play, when it's a pass and clearly he knows where his options are at, he doesn't move very much. He gets the ball out of there quickly. He makes the plays happen, and he's very, very accurate when he's not being pressured and when he realizes the pressure is there on him. But when it's not there, when the first option isn't there for him, or, if the play is designed to be a run, then he can take off and show that running ability. So that's huge to have. That's some big attributes there for a quarterback like Thomas to have. On those options, he makes very solid play fakes. He's again, I mentioned on here how much I love guys that can disguise the play fake very well. And you got to be able to do that because you've got to confuse the defense. You've got to keep them on their toes. You've got to, you can't let them know where you're going to go all the time. So that was very critical for me to look at. And he's very field aware. His field awareness, I think, is very strong. He's very aware of down and distance. I think at least in this game 4 or 5 times when it was like 3rd and short or 4th and short, Virginia Tech coaches designed the play call for Thomas because of that strength, because of his running ability. He's not afraid to use that strength to his advantage, especially on short yardage situations. So that is going to be very beneficial to a team that takes a chance on Logan Thomas because he has that in his repertoire and shows that ability to make that kind of play in those tight situations. So a lot to like about Logan Thomas here with those short passes, staying put in the pocket, accurate, and not afraid to have that running ability come out. But there are certainly a lot of things that I didn't like when I looked at Logan on film. On the deeper passes, he is not as accurate. His deep ball really needs a lot of fine tuning. He can throw behind receivers or just completely over them and airmail it. And there were a lot of times that tended to happen on the deeper balls, the deeper routes. And he just needs to read routes better in general. There were just yeah, he's aware of, his team's yardage on the field, and that's good to have. So he's savvy in that regard, but scanning the field up the field, being aware of where his receivers are at, he needs to work on that because sometimes he completely either misses guys or, reads the route wrong, and then he's either too early or too late. He needs to be a little more aware of where his guys are at. Because I saw at least a couple times where he's either throwing, way a little bit behind guys or completely, again, just airmailing it. He throws way too often into coverages. There were at least a couple times where he's throwing into double coverage. Dude, guys, there every single time. When he's on the run, he tries too hard to make a play, and he's throwing right into the teeth of the defense. He needs to work on, not taking those risks sometimes, because in the NFL, coverage is going to be a lot better, and he needs to make smarter decisions in that regard. He needs to cut down on the interceptions. And that kind of ties into throwing into the coverage and reading the routes better. That kind of all ties together. But Logan Thomas is very well known for making interceptions. You probably watch countless Virginia Tech games. You know that Logan usually finds a way to throw at least one or two a game. Now, some of them, I admit, not his fault. Some of them get tipped, deflected. But again, it all goes down on the quarterback. So he's got to really work on. Oh, excuse me. He's got to work on cutting back on the interceptions. And he really tends to cave under pressure, which is odd because, again, with a quarterback of his running ability, you would think that he would be able to escape it a little better. But maybe the fact that because he does tend to stay in the pocket and likes to not move around that much in it, when the pressure really comes in, especially there were at least one or two times where on a safety blitz, Duke really came strong at him and immediately was able to catch him, and Thomas just completely caved under it. So he's got to do a better job of also reading the defense better, seeing what they're bringing, and then adapting his skill set and ability to that as well. Obviously, when I look at Logan Thomas, like I said, there's a lot to like. There's a lot, but also this is why he's so far down the board, because there's a lot of things for him to work on. As it comes to Jacksonville, I don't think the Jaguar fans are going to, again, buy into a quarterback that's turnover-prone, mistake-prone, needs some real tuning, needs some fine-tuning, getting sacked. Jacksonville quarterbacks are already used to that now, so I don't think that Thomas would certainly work in Jacksonville. But, put him in a situation where, he can be refined. Put him in a situation where he's got a strong veteran presence behind him. So what if he's holding a clipboard as a second or third string? He'll learn from a veteran. He'll develop, and if he lands on a roster, I think certainly if in the preseason, I think he'll get a shot to show that skill set, but definitely needs some refining through training camps, through whatever it may be. He definitely needs some work in those areas, but again, certainly a lot to like. So in this case, pros and cons, about average. Logan Thomas is a very average, even quarterback with things to refine. That's basically how he is, and hopefully he ends up in a situation that's going to work out for him. But Jacksonville, I can't see happening. Okay, moving on to Tom Savage of Pittsburgh. Another kind of, another redshirt senior. So he was a fifth-year senior, must have dealt with an injury at some point, same probably with Thomas, but that shows he's a seasoned veteran. I watched the game against North Carolina for Pitt. Savage is 6'4", 230, so again, he's also got size and some strength as well to his advantage. So pros and cons for Savage. You know, the big thing that I saw, Savage throws a great out route, a great deep ball, toward the sideline. His passes are simply beautiful, especially on the deep balls. I didn't really see him throw a whole lot of short passes, so his style is kind of opposite of Thomas's in the fact that he's more known for throwing the deep ball. And even the announcer said at one point he makes NFL-style throws. So that certainly was impressive to hear in and of itself. I mean, the deep balls, the way he was able to connect with his receivers was outstanding. And I was so impressed to see some of the throws that Savage was able to make. He's very fluid in the pocket. Again, unlike Thomas, where he doesn't move a whole lot unless he tucks and runs, Savage is able to move around in the pocket and just be very consistent. He makes a lot of motion, but he makes plays. He's a playmaker. He's very. I don't know if this is the right thing to say. I don't know if he's Manziel light. He's Manziel-ish. I don't want to say Manziel light because they didn't have all the skill set of Manziel. I'd say Manziel-ish in the fact that he moves around well in the pocket. He makes plays. He's got a good deep ball. And unlike Logan Thomas, he is very aware of the routes his receivers runs. He knows where they're going to be at. He knows when they're supposed to be there, when to throw the football. He's deadly in that regard. Again, a lot to like here about Tom Savage. The deep ball is definitely his strength, which Jacksonville receivers, as I mentioned on here, they tend to prefer those deep routes is what Jacksonville has right now. The way that he can move around, avoid pressure. Pressure sometimes, not all the time, but very fluid. Time to throw, makes plays, doesn't quit on them, and aware of his receivers. Unfortunately, though, there were a lot of times that I saw when there is pressure in the backfield, Savage tends to make a lot of mistakes. He does tend to collapse under pressure. There are at least 2 or 3 instances where he either took a sack or he had a turnover, fumbled the football because of the pressure. So if he's got to be able to kind of expand that fluidity. I mean, yes, in the pocket he's comfortable when he's got time to throw, time to move, but when the pressure starts to come in, he's not, all of a sudden that ability goes away. So I think Savage needs to really work on refining the footwork part of the aspect and avoiding that pressure and still trying to make plays on a more consistent basis instead of collapsing to it and making mistakes, because again that leads to a lot of issues in the NFL. Sometimes, and I noticed this a couple times, he really tends to put a lot on his throws, and he tends to really throw a little too strongly. When it comes to a good throw, there's got to be like a spiral involved. There's got to be enough on it where it gets the receiver, but you can't put it in there too tight. You can't force it too much. You can't try to squeeze something in there when it's tough, and when that leads to passes getting tipped, passes getting deflected because there's just too much on it. So he's got to really work on his arm strength is one of his strengths. He's got good arm strength that's there, but he needs to tone it down a little bit for like the shorter passes, because that's another thing I noticed. Accuracy on the short passes. He apparently is not comfortable in a dink and dunk offense. That's not his style. It's not a style played at Pitt. So he needs to go to a team where usually maybe where the deep ball is more effective, or if he can find a way to fine tune that and put it in his style where he's not putting much on the ball and then screens work better for him. If that improves, then he'll be a better quarterback. But for now, he's got to work on being accurate on that, maybe adding it into his game. Otherwise, he's just going to be a deep ball quarterback, and sometimes that doesn't work. So those were things that I noticed. And again, I mentioned the footwork. He's got no escapability whatsoever. The pocket is his comfort zone. That's where he stays. And once someone intrudes on that, he has no way of getting out of it. He completely succumbs to the pressure. He gets forced into fumbles. He makes too many mistakes. And that has a Sanchez-esque style written all over it, because, you've got to find a way to not only A, be aware of the pressure, but B, to find a way to keep plays going and escape it. So he's got to kind of work on his footwork a little bit. So again, Savage, again, at this point down the draft board, we're looking at very average to below average quarterbacks. We're really looking at guys, we've already looked at the best of the best, the top guys, like your Bridgewaters, your Bortles, your Manziels, your Garoppolos, your, McCarrons and the like, and Taj Boyd, who I love from Clemson. So at this point, we're really, really stretching the draft class. But these are guys, again, that if teams take a chance on and give them a chance to develop, then, then they're going to start, who knows what could come out of them. Heck, Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick, and these guys are projected 7th, maybe free agents. So who knows what could happen here. So it's nice to take a look at these guys and just to see, what would happen. So again, so the thing about Savage right now, though, is he's, in terms of Jacksonville, again, he's one-dimensional in the sense that, yes, the deep ball is great, and making plays is good, and being aware of your routes, that's good. But the fact that the pressure getting to him, the throws being too strong, the accuracy on the shorter stuff, that I think really outweighs the pros here. So I'm a little worried on how Savage is going to do in the NFL. I don't think, I think he needs more refining than Logan Thomas does, and that's why probably Thomas is higher on the draft board. Thomas is just a few things away from being a better NFL quarterback. Savage, I think, needs a lot of work. I think he just, he's got to find some footwork. He's got to be able to read pressures. He's got to, know when to throw strong and know when to hold back a bit and be more accurate. So he's got to take that, he's got to expand his horizons. He can't be one-dimensional in the NFL. It just doesn't work. You've got to be able to expand a little bit. It's kind of like now being a dual-threat running back. You've got to be more of this dual-threat quarterback. So, you've got to expand your ability. So that's what I see with Savage right now. He's, again, got some good things, but in this case, the negatives kind of outweigh the positives. Okay, moving on now to an under-the-radar guy that I really, really liked here. Again, and, again, this guy could maybe be a late-round steal. Some are even saying he could be, one of the late steals of the draft, maybe. Him and along with Keith Wenning of Ball State, but who we're going to talk about also. Jeff Mathews out of Cornell. You probably never even heard of this guy. He's 6'4", 225. I watched, and it was hard for me to really find film of him and Wenning, I will say as well. It was hard for me to find film. I had to go all the way back to 2 years ago when he played Yale in 2012. So it was very difficult to find these smaller school guys. So very, very tricky. But wow, this guy, when I watched him, him playing this game, I mean, they blew Yale away, but there were a lot of things that I saw that I really liked about this guy, Jeff Mathews. Here's the thing, and some of these guys I make comparisons to, who Jeff Mathews reminds me of, and you might be surprised at this. He reminds me a lot of Joe Flacco when Flacco was at Delaware. And I watched Flacco play at Delaware, and small school guy, but big ability, big-time talent. He's got an inner clock in his head. He's very quick decision maker, quick release with the football, knows right where it needs to go. And it was like, at least 5-6 times in a row, just bim, bam, boom. Every single time it was there, it was dead on. And he can make all the throws anywhere. So unlike Thomas, who's known to dink and dunk and run, unlike Savage, whose specialty is the deep ball, Jeff Mathews can throw it anywhere on the field, and it's accurate. It's there. This, when they slow it down and they show the throw, the spiral, beautiful. I mean, it is a beautifully thrown football, and it is just always there every single time. It was just perfect. It was just amazing to see how accurate this guy was. He's also, like Savage, he's also very fluid in the pocket, but he's also consistent. He's consistently, usually it's the same footwork, it's the same process. It's the same mindset for him. He doesn't like to go outside the box very much. So he's similar to Savage in that regard, where he's, just kind of staying in that zone. But, that when he's comfortable, he likes to stay in that area. So very fluid and very, very consistent. He is able to take also advantage of a lot of defensive mismatches. He's aware of what the defense is showing him, and that's a big thing for quarterbacks to have. You've got to not only be aware of what are they in, what are they zone, are they nickel, are they dime, what's the coverage is, what's out there, and he quickly is able to see what the defense gives him, and he quickly takes advantage of it, burning them several times for big plays. So that's a huge attribute to have. I really liked what I saw when it came to Jeff Mathews' strengths. Now, there are only a couple weaknesses that I found with him. So, again, certainly I said that Thomas is very close to doesn't need much refining. Savage needs a lot of refining. Jeff Mathews does not need a whole lot of refining, folks. There were not a lot of things that I saw that he needed a lot of work in. He does need to do a better job, though, of scanning the field. He doesn't. He tends to kind of look off his receivers a little bit, way too often. That's going to give the defense a clue of what he's going to do. So he needs to, confuse the defense a bit, fake him out, scan the field a little bit more. Big issue, though, and similar to Savage, though, he lacks the footwork. He's not known as a runner. Now, there was one play that I watched where he did try to run, and the announcer even said after the play, the coach was probably having a heart attack on the sideline saying, get down, get down. I don't want him running. So you can tell right there that he's not used to being a runner. So he completely lacks that ability, and he's not used to running the football. So he's definitely more comfortable. Being in passing situations, so he even looked uncomfortable running when he ran. So you can kind of tell then from that regard that he's not used to being a runner. And the other thing that I thought was very concerning was he can collapse under pressure. A lot of these guys I found in this series, they tend to really collapse under the pressure. But the thing that I liked about Mathews, though, is he's not afraid to keep plays alive. He's not afraid. He might go down, but also when he does find a way to escape, which isn't very often, but when he does find a way to escape, he does tend to keep the play alive. He does sometimes he makes a pass happen, or he does gain a couple yards, or he's not afraid to do that. So he does kind of have it, but he needs to really do it on a more consistent basis before he's fully comfortable. So again, and again, I don't think Jacksonville's going to stretch this far down the draft board for a quarterback. Hopefully not anyway. But Mathews, I think, is going to be again a very interesting prospect for somebody who takes a chance on him. There's a lot to like. There's again with that inner clock, his sick accuracy. Staying in the pocket very consistently when he's got time to throw, taking advantage of the defense. There's just so much to like here. And really the things to refine are just little things. There's just little things that will come with time. Scanning the field, and becoming a better runner, developing that a little bit, escaping the pressure. So those are just little things to me that really need a lot of work. Not a lot of work, but at least a little bit of work. But in this case, to me, I was impressed with what I saw on tape. The pros certainly outweigh the cons here, and I think if anyone does take a chance on Mathews, I think again, put him in a situation where he can be a decent second, third string backup guy. Work with the offense, and who knows. So I think he could work. I think certainly there's a chance for him. I hope he gets a chance because I like to see that the small school guys succeed. And then finally, Keith Wenning of Ball State. And for me, this one is fun because I live in Indiana. Ball State's a in-state school. I've watched Wenning play a lot over the years. 6'3", 219, so the shortest and the lightest of this group of quarterbacks. but certainly has the numbers to back up. He set a ton of school records when he was at Ball State. Passing yardage, completions, touchdowns. I mean, he was just a statistical machine when he played for Ball State. Now, the only thing about Wenning, I found like no long videos of Wenning on YouTube. None. They were all just, a lot of these guys I found like 10, 11, 12-minute videos of these guys and highlights. I found nothing on Keith Wenning, which I was shocked because I thought a lot of people knew about Wenning's talent and ability. But then again, it is Ball State, so there might not be a whole lot out there. But so most of the information that I found on him, I kind of took from I kind of saw from different magazines and websites and that kind of thing. Like I forget what one that I use, like NFL.com. Different ones out there to see things. I watched a couple of highlight videos, like mini highlight videos of him. So I had to do a lot of breakdown on him because I could find no long highlight videos on YouTube. So the things that I like on Keith Wenning, he has a track record of winning. He turned Ball State's program around. Ball State was not well known for their football for a long time. But when he arrived in Muncie and then the new coaching staff came in, Ball State started winning and doing very well. So that was huge. So if you have that track record going, that gives you confidence going to the next step forward. But you have to realize, though, that it is another league in the NFL, so you might not have that consistency continuing. He's also very accurate. He doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He only had, like, in his record-setting season, he only had, like, I think, like 6 or 7 interceptions. He doesn't beat himself. He doesn't, he finds a way, again, to make the accurate throws and doesn't beat himself. So he's very, very on point with his receivers. I mentioned how he's a touchdown machine, setting the school records. He will find a way to the end zone. He will lead your offense down the field, and he will find a way to get there. His timing, that kind of goes along with accuracy, but his timing is always on point. He's very field savvy. He's very, again, knows where his receivers are at, knows what's in front of them, very aware of what's going on. That's always a strength to have. Like Tom Savage, his arm strength, and just a very strong arm, puts a lot on the ball. But in his case, his receivers are where it's going to be, where it's supposed to be, where it's coming at him, and that was on display a lot of times in the videos that I saw. His receivers were always ready to get it and know where it's going to be. He has amazing footwork. He had 12 rushing touchdowns in his career, so he can utilize the footwork. Again, very fluid. A lot of these guys fluid in the pocket. Same way with Wenning. And again, I mentioned that a lot of experts are saying that he could be potentially the steal of the draft. So, which is always a nice label to have on your moniker because you're saying, oh well, you're drafting me this low. Well, I could be a steal for somebody. So if a team takes a chance on him, could be or he'll be the steal of the draft. The only downsides that I saw, at least that I read about, he does sometimes tend to force throws. They're not always where they need to be. Again, coverages, sometimes, but they said that he has refined that a lot over time. And of course, the level of competition won't be the same that it was in college, going up against the likes of the MAC schools, as it will be in the NFL. So based on that alone, based on reading all that information, the fact that he's won games, putting up big stats, the big things that are going to transfer to the NFL obviously are the accuracy, the arm strength, his field savvy, the rushing ability. That's going to be great. So again, it doesn't sound like there's a lot for him to refine on in that regard. Just the forcing of the throws, being a little bit more risk averse in that regard. I personally, I've already watched Keith Wenning a lot over his career, and I like what I see. I watched him in the MAC title game a couple years ago against Northern Illinois, and the bowl game, in the GoDaddy Bowl, and I like what I see. I certainly think there's potential there with Keith Wenning. Again, in regard to the Jags, again, I don't think they'll go this low, but if they do, if they maybe like what they see in him, if he's high on the board, you know, certainly they're going to get a playmaker, certainly going to get someone who is accurate and has that strength and has good ability. So I think there's potential there. Whoever gets him, I think, is going to have a very, very strong prospect. Again, developmental. He probably, he's not going to be asked to be a starter day one. But certainly, I think there's a chance that he could make an impact in the NFL. I think certainly, again, if he lands in the right situation, certainly he could, do some really good things based on what I've seen. All right, guys, so that's it for that list. For those 4 guys. Like Orban, paper, So that's it for those 4. Next video I will plan on for now. Let's see, today is the 22nd. I will try to get one up on Wednesday the 26th. I'm going to be, again, probably out of town tomorrow and Monday. I have both those days off from work, but I have church in Monticello on Sunday. So I'll probably be there for the vast majority of those days. So I will try to get another one up on Wednesday, which is my next day off following that. In the next video, we're going to look at Stephen Morris from Miami, Garrett Gilbert of SMU, the former Texas product, Casey Pakal of TCU, and Chase Reddick of Boston College. These are guys that I have definitely watched a lot throughout their college careers, especially at TCU. Garrett Gilbert, I remember first seeing him when he took over for Colt McCoy, the injured Colt McCoy in the Texas game. Didn't do so well then, but he's certainly gotten better over his college career. Reddick at Boston College, I've seen some shades of. So those 4 will be the next ones that we highlight in the next video. Again, thank you guys so much for your patience, for your understanding, for your support to get this video up. I really, really appreciate it. Keep enjoying the tournament, and I'll see you guys next week for another edition of the Jaguars Quarterback Quest. Thanks, guys.